Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Everyone write the title, Sirah. Sirah. So we're going to do this as quickly as we can. We're going to go with, this is Sirah, course book 1. So we're going to try and finish it today, the whole thing. Sirah, what do we learn in the Sirah? So Sirah is the name of a subject. What do we learn here? Yeah.
Childhood of the messenger.
Which messenger?
Prophet Muhammad.
Okay. Sirah, in Sirah we learn the life of the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So what do we learn in Sirah?
The life of Prophet Muhammad.
Yeah. So this is Sirah, course book 1, which is, for younger children. So we're going to go through it together. And we're going to write a timeline with it. So we're going to make a timeline. So let's read it first. Who wants to read? Okay, I'll start off reading. Okay, so Sirah. So everyone focus this way. Childhood of our beloved Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam. You'll know some of these things already. Our beloved Messenger Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam was born in the city of Makkah. Okay, so first keyword, city of Makkah, early on a Monday morning of Rabi'ul Awwal. So Rabi'ul Awwal is the name of the month that he was born in. So which city was he born in?
Makkah.
Which day? Monday. And which month?
Rabi'ul-awwal.
Yes, Rabi'ul Awwal. The year he was born was known as the year of the elephant, for it was in this year that Abraha, the governor in Yemen, decided to build his own place of worship. Abraha wanted people to visit his house rather than the Kaaba in Makkah. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala destroyed Abraha and his army by a group of birds and protected the Kaaba. Okay, so the year that the Prophet was born in is known as the year of the elephant. Have I told you guys this before? The incident of the elephant and how the people attack an army?
Surah that one?
Yeah, Surah Al-Fil. Have I told you that, guys? We must have had a lesson on this.
Probably.
Yeah, we have. Okay, so Abraha, so I'm not going to go into the long story, maybe another lesson. So Abraha, he decided to attack the Kaaba, Allah's house. So he mobilized an army, and inside this army were elephants as well. And he attacked the Kaaba. How did Allah protect the Kaaba?
By ordering birds to the clay.
Yeah, so Allah, the birds, what they done was the birds, just small birds, very small birds. There's so many of them in groups, and they had 3 pebbles, one in a beak, one in each claw, and they dropped it on the army. And whoever it hit, the person would die. So Allah protected the Kaaba with small birds. The reason why Allah used small birds is to show that, do birds normally kill people, especially small birds? No. Allah wanted to show us that nothing is impossible for Allah. Allah can destroy the greatest of armies, or greatest of all creatures and creations, with the weakest of all things. Yeah, this is Allah. Nothing is impossible or difficult for Allah. So this year was known as the year of the elephant because it's a miracle from Allah. So this happened about 50 or 55 days before the Prophet Muhammad was born. Okay. First thing we're going to draw a timeline. So I'm going to tell you to write headings as we go along, so we can remember the whole course book 1 and revise for it very easily. So first heading is before birth, and underline it. So write before birth, then underline. Okay, I'm going to summarize this in one sentence. Yes, so underneath write bullet points. And write Allah destroyed Abraha's army attacking the Kaaba. Allah destroyed Abraha's army attacking the Kaaba with a group of birds. Allah destroyed Abraha's army attacking the Kaaba with a group of birds. Yeah, so first bullet point to remind us. So this happened how many days before the Prophet's birth?
55.
50 or 55, yeah. Second bullet point. Okay, let's read first. The Kaaba is a building in the city of Makkah, which Prophet built it?
Ibrahim.
alayhi salam built. We face the Kaaba when we pray our salah. It is a place where Allah is remembered greatly. That's what you know when you go for Hajj and Umrah, everyone goes to there and visits the Kaaba. Muhammad's father's name was Abdullah, and his mother's name was what? Amina. Yeah, so Abdullah and Amina. Abdullah passed away before Muhammad was born. Yeah, so before the Prophet Muhammad was born, approximately about 2 months approximately before he was born, Abdullah passed away. He was roughly around the age of 18. He died of he passed away due to an illness. He became ill one day and then he passed away while traveling. So second bullet point, right? Abdullah, his father passed away. That's our second bullet point. Okay. And so we need to remember these two names. We've so far come across Amina and Abdullah, his parents' names. Okay. Next page. It was a custom of the Arabs to send their children to the villages for the first few years of their life. They would send their children so that they could grow up away from the city life. So what happened was, children, when they were born, the Arabs would send them to live in the deserts for a few years, for them to grow up in the deserts. So once a year, women from the deserts, they would come to Makkah and they'd take a child with them and then bring them back after a few years. The reason why they do that is here it says they would send their children so that they could grow up away from the city life, away from the life of the city. Because the life in a city isn't very good. Life in a village, you're away from all that pollution, you're away from all that distraction. So they would go and live in the deserts with the people, and there they'd learn pure Arabic, they'd learn manners, they'd learn the culture, they'd learn different skills. Because you're living in a village and you have to work, you have to learn a lot of things. Does that make sense? So write the next title, age 0 to 4. That's your next heading. Age 0 to 4. Okay, we're going to continue reading. Halima radiallahu anha was a lady from the tribe of Banu Sa'd. So this is another key name, Halima. Remember that for now. Who lived in the village. She came to Makkah looking for a baby to take back with her so he could grow up in the village. So she's just one of those women that came to Makkah, amongst many other women. Allah blessed her through Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. When she took Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam back to her village, she saw many great blessings. Her animals began to give more milk than before, and her camel, which was weak and slow, suddenly became strong and active. Halima radiallahu anha kept our beloved messenger for 4 years. That's why I made you write the title, age 0 to 4. So, soon as she took the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, she saw many blessings and many miracles straight away. And this was just indicator from Allah that this child is going to be someone extraordinary, someone amazing. So while she was coming to Makkah from the desert, she had a very weak animal. And even when she was living, there was famine, there wasn't much vegetation, there wasn't enough grass for all the animals to feed on, etc. But as soon as she took the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, number one, her animal that was weak and slow started, had strength now all of a sudden, and it was going very fast. And when she went back to her, even when she went to her village, her crops would grow more than everyone else's, and her animals would eat and drink more than everyone else's for some reason, even though there was famine and there wasn't much food around. So she saw many different signs like this. So we're going to continue reading. When she took Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, we just read this. Okay, so all right, Halima. He was sent to live with Halima in the desert. He was sent to live with Halima in the desert. Halimah. He was sent to live with Halima in the desert for 4 years. for 4 years. So that's how he spent the first 4 years of his life, living in deserts. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala blessed her through Muhammad. When she took Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam back to her, we just read this. Yeah. Okay. When Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam was 6 years old, do you guys know what happened when he was 6? No? I've changed the page, so you can't see. Okay, let's read. When Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam was 6 years old, he went with his mother. What's his mother's name? Amina. He went with his mother Amina to visit their relatives in Medina. Where were they going?
Medina.
To do what? Why were they going to Medina? Just checking if you guys are listening. To visit their relatives in Medina. On their way back. So they went to Medina, now they're on their way back. Amina passed away at a place called Abwa. So his mother, Amina, passed away. And how old was he?
6.
6 years old. So imagine, has he ever seen his father?
No.
No, his father passed away. Now he only has his mother. And while the Prophet was 6 years old, even his mother passed away. So imagine a 6-year-old child now, seeing his mother pass away, burying his mother, now living a life without a mother. So they passed away in a place called Abwa. Ayman, who was traveling with them, brought Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam back to Makkah. Okay, so what should be our next title? What should be our next title that you're going to write down?
Age of Science.
Age 6. Write that down. That's our next title, Age 6. And then underline it. So what's the first incident that would happen that you write down?
His mother passed away.
Yeah. Mother Amina passes away.
Does that mean his parents were quite old? They passed away.
No, parents passed away quite young. Like I said, how old was Abdullah?
18.
18 years old. And his mother was very young as well. She wasn't old. Okay, let's see who looked after him after his mother passed away. Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam was cared for by his grandfather, Abdul Muttalib, who loved our beloved messenger Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam very much. Okay, so next bullet point. Who is he looked after?
His grandpa.
Yeah, looked after by his grandfather, Abdul Muttalib. Write that down. Looked after by his grandfather, Abdul Muttalib. What's the name? Okay, Abdul Muttalib was the leader of Makkah at the time. So the Prophet ﷺ, his grandfather, his father was Abdullah, and his father's father, which is his grandfather, was Abdul Muttalib. He was a leader of Makkah at the time. So he was the most important person at the time. And Abdul Muttalib, when he took the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ into his care, he loved him more than his own sons. He had many children. In Makkah, where the Kaaba was, just right outside the Kaaba, Abdul Muttalib used to have his own special place of sitting. No one was allowed to sit there. He's the leader of Makkah, so he used to have his own place. Even his children weren't allowed to sit in the middle of the mat. They used to sit around it. Except for Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he would come and sit in the center. Other people tried to remove him, saying, no, that's, you're not allowed to sit there. It's Abdul Muttalib's place, the leader of Makkah. But Abdul Muttalib would let Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam would sit right in the middle, in his place. So Abdul Muttalib loved him even more than his own children, because he saw like this child is not an ordinary child. It's someone amazing. He had, while he was growing up, he wasn't just another ordinary child. He was talented, he was skillful, he was extremely well mannered, etc. So he had a lot of qualities that made him stand out from everyone else. So because of all these reasons, he loved him even more than his own children. Okay, now let's see what happens next. So far he's 6-year-old now, isn't he? So let's move along the timeline. When Muhammad ﷺ was 8 years old, Abdul Muttalib passed away. So write that down. Age 8. His grandfather, Abdul Muttalib, passes away. You have to remember all these names, by the way. His parents' name, his grandfather's name. and the name of the person who looked after him. His grandfather, Abdul Muttalib, passes away. That's your first bullet point. His grandfather, Abdul Muttalib, passes away. Okay, so when Muhammad ﷺ was 8 years old, Abdul Muttalib passed away. So now imagine your 8-year-old child. When did his father pass away?
Before he was born.
When did his mother pass away?
Age 6.
Age of 6. Now, the only person that he has is his grandfather, who looks after him. Now his grandfather even passes away at the age of 8. So imagine what he must be feeling right now. He's losing everyone that he loves in his life. He's slowly losing everyone. So now he had his grandfather, and even he's passed away. After which Muhammad ﷺ was looked after by his uncle Abu Talib. So that's his second bullet point. Looked after by uncle Abu Talib. So that's his father's brother, his paternal uncle.
What's the name?
It's written here, Abu Talib. So looked after by uncle Abu Talib. Okay, so how old is the messenger at the moment?
8.
8 years old. Okay, let's continue. Okay, so now his childhood is finished. Now we're going into his youth. So what can you say about his childhood?
Painful.
Yeah, he'd have a painful childhood. Anything else? Lonely, you could say that. Possibly he was lonely, not having parents. Then the grandfather passed away. But then he's looked after by his uncle. And it's not the same being looked after by your uncle, isn't it? Is it? They're very different to your own parents, even to your grandparents. Although they are close family, but it's not the same. So he had very good qualities, the Prophet ﷺ. His character exceptionally good. Despite all these bad things happening to him, it never changed him, never made him a bad person. So he stood out from everyone else. He's very talented, he's a very brave person. And we can see that he's gone through a lot of trouble and hardship in his life. Okay, so now let's continue. Now go on to his youth. So write that down actually, in the middle of your paper as a title, his youth. Yeah, so like here. And his youth, in the center. Okay, Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wasallam went with his uncle Abu Talib on a journey to Syria. Now he's about 12 years old. So his uncle Abu Talib actually looked after him for a very long time, until the Prophet ﷺ became older, he became independent, and he could look after himself now. So he looked after him for a very long time. So Muhammad ﷺ went with his uncle Abu Talib on a journey to Syria. On the way, they stopped at a place and were met by a monk whose name was Buhayra. So where were they going? Bangladesh?
Syria.
Syria. And they met a monk whose name was what? Buhayra. Yeah? Buhayra told Abu Talib that his nephew was going to be the last messenger. Okay, so Buhayra was a monk, and he used to live on I forgot the name, on a place on the way to Syria. He used to live. And the Quraysh, where the Prophet was from, the Arabs from Makkah, they used to go to Syria all the time for businesses. They would go and sell things and buy things and bring it back to Makkah. So this monk never paid attention to them, not even once. But this time, he came out of his place and he went over to the Arabs where the Prophet was. And he took an interest to them all of a sudden. Then he started looking at the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ and examining him. And after examining him, he told Abu Talib that your nephew is going to be the final messenger. And because he's a monk, they'd be very knowledgeable. They'd be reading the scriptures all the time, and they'd know, and all the signs of the last prophet would be mentioned in the scriptures. So when he saw the Prophet ﷺ, he immediately recognized that this person, this boy, is going to be the final messenger. And that's why he went over to them. Yeah. So he would recognize him. He recognized him straight away. And that's why he told Abu Talib that your nephew is going to be the messenger. he told Abu Talib not to take him to Syria because people would recognize him and might want to hurt him out of jealousy. Why do you think they'd get jealous?
Because he's important and maybe because he has different abilities, but miracles would happen around him.
Okay, possible.
And they would wish that they wanted these miracles done with them.
Okay, that's true. But the main reason was that in Syria, that's where the Roman Empire was. So now, if they found out that he's the prophet, what would people do? The emperor. His fear would be that people stop following him and they're going to follow the new prophet, isn't it? So what's going to happen to his power? He's going to lose his power, isn't it? So now out of jealousy, what's he going to do? He'd rather kill him, isn't it? And keep all of his power. So Buhayra, he apprehended that. So he told Abu Talib that make sure you do not send him to Syria because people have bad intentions and they will want to kill him. And Abu Talib actually took that advice and actually sent him back. So I think it was with Bilal radiallahu anhu, another companion, another person, and sent him back to Mecca. Buhayra said that he saw the trees bowing down to the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So these were signs. So as he was growing up as a child, he was already given signs by Allah that he's going to be someone extremely special.
But did he know that?
He probably wouldn't have seen that. We're just continuing from where we left off. We haven't done anything. He just went to Syria, met the monk Buhayra, and Buhayra told him he was going to be a prophet, told his uncle, and his uncle Abu Talib sent him back to Makkah so that people don't harm him or do anything to him. Okay. So write the first bullet point, age 12. No, write the title, sorry. Write the subheading, age 12. And write the first bullet point, first journey to Syria. First journey to Syria, where he met the monk Buhayra. Where he met the monk Buhayra, who told them that he's going to be a prophet. So first the journey to Syria, where he met the monk Buhayra, who told them he is going to be a prophet. Okay, so this was a very significant event in his life. And how old was he at the time? 12 years old. Okay, let's continue. As Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam grew up, the people began to see that he had great qualities. He was always honest and trustworthy. They began calling him as-Sadiq, the most honest, and al-Amin, the most trustworthy. So everyone knew him as as-Sadiq, the most honest and the most trustworthy person. So imagine a town where everyone knows you, and they know you because you have amazing character. That's who the Prophet ﷺ was. So imagine yourself, everyone knows you, and they know you're the person, or you're the child, who has, very good character. No one can say anything bad about you. That's who the Prophet ﷺ was. So you must have done really good things to people in order for everyone to know you, isn't it? And not say anything bad about you. So write this as your next bullet point. He was known as as-Sadiq. Your next bullet point. He was known as as-Sadiq. It's written here. As-Sadiq, the most truthful. And al-Amin, the most trustworthy. So just copy that down. So people would give people would give him their money to look after because they knew that he wouldn't do anything bad with it. He wouldn't spend it or he wouldn't lose it because he was trustworthy. People would, trust him with all their possessions and valuables. Now, even there's an incident where someone owed the Prophet some money, and the person said to the Prophet that wait here, I'll go get it. So the Prophet was waiting, and the person, he went home and started eating. And while he was eating, actually, he forgot about it. And 3 days went by. 3 days later, he remembered, oh yeah, I told the Prophet, I'm going to give him money. I told him to wait there. So he went back to where he was, and he found the Prophet there. And when the Prophet saw him, the only thing that he said to him was, you put me in a lot of inconvenience. But that's all he said. Didn't swear at him, didn't shout at him, didn't say, why didn't you come for? You made me wait for so long, etc., etc. All the Prophet said was, you made me go through a lot of inconvenience. So the Prophet, his character was extremely high. And because the Prophet told him that he'll be waiting, that's why he actually waited, or he would have broken his promise. So that's why the Prophet, he stayed there. So the Prophet, whenever he'd make a promise, he'd make sure he never broke his promise. He'd always speak the truth. That's why the entire town and city knew him as the truthful one and the most honest. And everyone respected him. So when you have good qualities, people respect you. And when you have bad qualities, that's when people don't respect you. They don't really care what you have to say. So the Prophet, he made sure he had good qualities. Okay, so what lessons can we learn from his youth? How do we follow the Prophet ﷺ? Let's say you guys are young.
Don't lie and always tell the truth.
Yeah.
And be good so people will respect you.
Yeah, that's a perfect example that we can learn from the Prophet ﷺ, isn't it? So especially you guys are growing up. So you guys are going to go to school, you're going to go to secondary school. You're going to talk to so many different people. You're going to be people in your classes. There are going to be people, let's say people in your maths class, going to be people in your English class. You're going to be people that you meet in the playground. You're going to be people that you meet in the corridors. You're going to meet people in after school clubs. Okay? And then you're going to have your family, you're going to have your relatives. Okay, you might not have any friends. Okay? But a lot of people are going to know you. Now you think, what do all of these people say about you, think about you? What do you think the person sitting next to you will think about you? What do you think your teachers will think about you? What do they think about your character? Are you a pleasant person? Are you a respectful person? Are you a trustworthy person? Are you a reliable person? Can people trust you with their money? Can people trust you with their things? If you made a promise to someone, do people know that you're the person that's going to keep that promise? Or do they think that he's just lying? When you say something, will people believe you because you always tell the truth and no one has ever seen you lie before or make something up? Okay? So now compare yourself to the Prophet ﷺ. So the way we follow the Prophet ﷺ is by being like him in our character. So if I want to make my youth like the youth of the Prophet ﷺ, I have to make my character as perfect as possible. Any questions on this so far?
No.
Okay. Here in the course book it says the next part is when they rebuilt the Kaaba. But I'm going to skip that because in other books it actually brings that much later. So I'm going to go to the next part first. I'm going to go back to the rebuilding of the Kaaba. Next we're going to do is the marriage to Khadija.
What age is it?
Okay, write the title age 25. Next subheading, age 25.
Has it been 13 years?
Yeah. So a lot of time has passed. A lot of this time was passed. He was a shepherd. So he used to work for the people of Makkah. He used to look after their goats and herd, etc. And for a bit of money. But we're going to come to that later. We'll mention that later. We're just writing a brief timeline and we're going to start again. And we're going to mention a few more things in detail. So now we're just going through very quickly and very brief. Okay, marriage to Khadija, radiallahu anha. In Makkah, there lived a very rich woman whose name was Khadija. So she was very rich. And she was actually married, I think, twice before. I think her husband passed away and etc. And when Khadija radiallahu anha heard how honest and trustworthy Muhammad was, so the only thing she actually knew about him was his character. That's what she heard about him. She asked him to go on a business trip to Syria and sell her goods. She sent her servant Maysara to go along with him. So she asked the Prophet ﷺ and asked him, do you want to work for me as a businessman? So he'd take her products, her goods, things that she has, and he'll go to Syria and sell them. And then he'll make a profit, he'll go back to Khadija and give her the money. And then he'll be given a wage. Does that make sense? So that's his job. So he went with who?
Her servant, Maysara.
Yeah. He went with her servant Maysara. Muhammad's trip was very successful for Khadija. This trip, the Prophet made so much profit that no one else has ever made that much profit for her. And when the Prophet ﷺ came back to, actually, let's just read this first. On the way to Syria, another monk had told Maysara that Muhammad ﷺ was going to be a prophet. So this was an encounter with another monk. A monk saw the Prophet ﷺ, and this monk told Maysara this time that this is going to be a prophet. And one of the signs that this that was seen on this journey, the Prophet on his journey to Syria, he sat next to a tree under that shade, near where that monk was.
The tree bent down, Bell.
Not this time. What the monk came and told Maysara was that this tree, no one has ever come and sat under this tree except for the previous prophets before him. The last person to come and sit under this tree, well, I think he said was Isa, Jesus. Okay, so that was an indication that, okay, why is this strange man? No one ever sits on this tree. The people that used to sit on this tree before him were the prophets before. Okay, so that was the first indication that he was a prophet. And other indications were that the clouds, wherever he would go, the clouds would shade him. So just small miracles that Allah gave to the Prophet ﷺ, so the people around him could see that, he's not an ordinary person.
So if someone was standing next to him, the cloud would just follow.
Possibly, yeah. So there were these signs, and Maysara saw all of these signs, and there would be a lot more. And when Maysara came back, obviously, she told Khadija that all these extraordinary things that happened in their journey. And once the Prophet actually handed over the money and she saw how much profit he made, number one, it showed how truthful he was. How did it show how truthful he was?
He did a good job.
He did a good job. But he could have just taken the money, isn't it? Or he could have taken quite a lot of it and given a normal amount back, isn't it? But he gave everything back, and she was surprised at how much money he actually made. He could have just kept the extra bit and just gave the normal amount back, isn't it? So she saw how truthful he was, how good he was at business, how intelligent he was, and his good qualities as well. So after seeing all of these, Khadija saw the signs of prophethood. She saw miracles from him. She heard about it from Maysara. She saw how good his character was and how truthful and honest he was. So after seeing all of these things, Khadija radiallahu anha expressed her wish to marry Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Muhammad was 25 years old when he married Khadija, while Khadija's age was 40. Write that down. So that's your first bullet point. Khadija was 40 years old. Khadija, it's written over here, was 40 years old. And how old was the Prophet ﷺ?
25.
He's 25. Allah blessed them with 4 daughters and 2 sons. So right there's the second bullet point. They had 4 daughters and 2 sons. They had 4 daughters and 2 sons. Next heading, right, age 35. Okay, now we're going to go back to the bit that we skipped out.
The rebuild.
Yeah, rebuilding of the Kaaba.
Why do they need to rebuild it?
We'll find out.
Yeah.
One day the Quraysh, do you know what the Quraysh was? What's Quraysh?
Surah.
It's a sort of name, but I don't know what it actually is.
The Quraysh was the name of the tribe of the Prophet ﷺ. So that's the tribe that he was from. Does that make sense? And we're going to learn about that next lesson in the Sirah. More about it. About the life, the family of the Prophet ﷺ and his lineage, where he came from. Okay. One day, the Quraysh decided to rebuild the Kaaba as its walls had become weak. The Kaaba had become very weak. It was built by Ibrahim a.s. and Ismail a.s. The prophets that came very long time ago. So its walls had become weak. It's about to collapse. The Kaaba didn't even have a roof back then. It didn't have a roof. So they decided to rebuild the Kaaba. So they wanted to break down the whole Kaaba and then rebuild it again from new. So when the time came to put the... so what happened was... Actually, let's just read it. It's going to tell you anyway. When the time came to put the black stone in its place. So what happened once they broke down the Kaaba, within the Quraysh, there are many sub-tribes. Let's say you have Medway, you have Chatham, Strood, Rochester, Gillingham, you have different towns, isn't it, within Medway. So within the Quraysh, there are many different tribes. So all the tribes were given certain jobs to do in rebuilding the Kaaba, because everyone wanted to have a part in this, because Kaaba is the most holiest masjid in the whole world, isn't it? So everyone wanted to rebuild it. So everyone was given small jobs to do. And now in the Kaaba, if you guys see, in one section of the wall in the corner, there's a black stone. Have you guys seen it before in pictures?
Is it like an eye? Or something that look like it?
Might do, it's just a stone in the... So in one of the corners of the Kaaba, there's something called a black stone. This black stone is understood to be from Jannah. It's a stone which Allah came from Jannah. And it was there from the time of Adam alayhi salam. So it's a very special stone. So now when it came to putting the black stone back in the Kaaba, the argument broke out, which was, what do you think the argument would be?
Why did they
Why
remove
did
the
they
stone?
break it down?
No. Who gets to put the stone back in? Because who has the special task? Who's going to be given that privilege
Between the
and
tribes.
honor? Yeah. So every tribe wants that honor for themselves. Because if your tribe gets to put it in, you can tell everyone for the next hundreds of years that we are the tribe that had the honor of putting the black stone back in the Kaaba. We're better than everyone else.
So did Muhammad do it? Yeah.
Okay, so now the argument got so bad that they're about to start a fight, and it would have even broken out into a war, killing, bloodshed. That's how bad it would have gotten. So they're having an argument. So let's see what happened. They could not decide who should put the black stone in the wall of the Kaaba. They were so angry that they were ready to fight. However, someone suggested that whoever came into the masjid next could decide what should be done. So then they agreed upon that. They said, okay, what we'll do, the next morning, the first person to enter the Kaaba, enter the masjid, can decide what to do. And they agreed upon that. And Muhammad ﷺ was the first person to enter the masjid the next morning. And once they saw it was the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ entering the masjid, they were all happy and said that he is as-sadiq. What does as-sadiq mean?
The most
Honest.
truthful
Honest.
and honest.
Yeah, the most truthful. And al-amin. And we are happy with him. Al-amin means trustworthy. And we are happy. Muhammad ﷺ, okay, now look at his intelligence. So Prophet ﷺ was extremely intelligent. And we can see how intelligent he was from this one incident. Muhammad ﷺ told a person from each tribe to come forward and take a hold of a piece of cloth with a black stone in the middle. So he took out a cloth, put it on the floor, put the black stone in the middle, told the leader of each tribe to grab one piece of the cloth. So now every tribe has that honor, isn't it? So all the leaders of each tribe, they lifted up the cloth and they put it next to the hole where the black stone is supposed to go. And take it to the Kaaba. And then they take it to the Kaaba. And after which he lifted it, the Prophet ﷺ, he then took the black stone with his hands and then he placed it inside the Kaaba. So he done it finally, but the honor was given to all the tribes, isn't it? See how he used his intelligence to stop a war and a fight from happening. So the Prophet ﷺ was extremely intelligent. Okay, so that's the last thing we're going to do. So write the bullet point, rebuilding of the Kaaba.
Wait, saying that?
Yeah, age 35, under there. Rebuilding of the Kaaba. And placing the black stone. Rebuilding the Kaaba and placing the black stone. Okay, so that's a quick revision, well, not so quick, revision of the first part of the life of the Prophet ﷺ. So what I want you guys to do is read through it and try to remember the dates. What happened first, what happened next. Because it's very important to understand the life of the Prophet ﷺ. Because it will tell us how to live our lives. If we don't know the life of the Prophet ﷺ, we won't know how to live our lives. The life of the Prophet ﷺ is extremely important. So what you guys need to do as well is remember the names as well. His father's name, mother's name, the name of the tribe. What was the name of the tribe?
Quraysh.
Quraysh. Which city was he born in?
Makkah.
Makkah. Who looked after him first?
Halima Sadia.
Halima. What was his grandfather's name?
Abdul Muttalib.
Abdul Muttalib. Uncle's name?
Abu Talib,
Wife's name?
Khadija.
Okay, I want you to write these names down, and then we're going to finish. So write these names down from here, in a list, and we'll finish.